like Ben Johnson's making himself probably the most pursued coach throughout the offseason. The thing that he's been able to do with a guy like Jared Goff, this Lions offense, and how they continue to keep just ticking time and time again, man. I think they're special.
Yeah.
Does that say that a guy like Ben Johnson can run his own team? I don't think so. But I definitely think the fact that he was able to take on the project that was Jared Goff, turn him into what he is doing right now after he was pretty much thrown aside by the Los Angeles Rams. I think that says a lot personally, Daniel. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, but I've been super impressed with Ben Johnson. I was watching that game last night and I said, "Oh, this is a guy that's going to find himself commanding a lot of money." We already know apparently he's being very picky for his process for head coach, but I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, Daniel.
I mean, so I like Ben Johnson.
Mhm.
I do. I think that Ben Johnson is the next guy that's up, right? I think that Ben Johnson has been arguably the best offense coordinator in the NFL in the past couple of years. I would just caution people that expect him to be above, head and shoulders above every other coach in this cycle, right? I do think that the names, obviously the Bill Belichick, but I think and Mike Vrabel, those two are kind of different type of style of coaches if you're going for a new regime. But I think that to put Ben Johnson head and shoulders above the guys like the Liam Cohns of the world, the Thomas Browns of the world, the Joe Brady's of the world, I just don't know if I'm fully there. I think that he is a superb offensive coordinator, and I just realized he was on the same coaching staff of the Zach Taylor, of Dan Campbell, in Miami. He was their tight ends coach over there, worked his way up through the ranks, spent 7 years over there. So he's been, in the league for a long time. And actually, Zach Taylor had huge praise for Ben Johnson in 2022. He was like, "Hey, I've been trying to hire Ben Johnson for, the past couple years, but Dan Campbell on the staff do a very good job retaining the talent." And he had a lot of bright things to say about Ben Johnson. So I think Ben Johnson's very, very talented. My only question and the only thing that I would be looking at if I'm a team hiring them is say, "Hey, what's the personnel with the Detroit Lions and what's the personnel with my team?" Right? If I'm a team that's hiring Ben Johnson, I know one thing. I know this dude can run an amazing fucking offense. And excuse my French, but that's the case, right? So how do you put him in the best possible position to succeed? I think it's marrying the two. And like you said, the report that came out is being very picky. And I think that's important because he knows that, hey, when I go to a team, I need to, be able to control somewhat the talent that I bring in to my offense, because you look at the talent on their offense dating back to his first year as offense coordinator, they still had an elite running back duo in, Jamal Williams, and they had DeAndre Swift. Those two made a great 1-2 punch. They have had a consistently top 5 offensive line for the past 3 years. They've had consistent weapons on the offense side of the ball. And when you look at this, year, what he's been doing, even with Jared Goff, it is very impressive, but it's not like Jared Goff was a bum with the Los Angeles Rams. Jared Goff was a very solid quarterback. Jared Goff was an average quarterback, but he put up elite numbers. He's a dude, he went to the Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Rams. So I feel like for me, I think that the whole Jared Goff thing, I think that Jared Goff has been an MVP candidate. I think he's looked better than he was with the Los Angeles Rams. But personally, I just hate the notion that Ben Johnson has turned him into this. Jared Goff was a very good quarterback. Jared Goff was the number 1 overall pick in the NFL for a reason. He is a talented quarterback, and he's also led talented offenses with the Los Angeles Rams. So I say all that to say, I'm excited for Ben Johnson. I think he will be a good head coach, but I think it is crucial that he goes to a team to where, hey, even like a Chicago Bears, I think that they have great personnel on the offense side of the ball. And if they go add to the offensive line, I think that that could be a potential, spot that kind of lines up. But I'd be very curious, and I'd hope that whatever team he goes to will allow him to get that offensive personnel and spend elite draft capital building that offensive line, because what he's got with Detroit, it works now. And he has to find a way to replicate that. And you need talent on the offense side of the ball. So,
You know, You have your opinion. I have my opinion on it. Kind of ended abrupt there on me,
Oh, my
but
bad. No,
no,
I,
no,
I
no,
can.
no. It's fine. It's fine. But I think it would be malpractice if I didn't get Parker Blake in on the discussion to get his thoughts on Ben Johnson. You know, I didn't know Daniel felt so passionately about Jared Goff, and and Jared Goff. Let's be honest, Daniel.
Yeah.
Jared Goff came into the league ideal situation, right?
Yeah.
He's working with a guy like Sean McVay, who's an offensive mastermind. Of course, you're going to put up the numbers you sort of had, and that's not to say that he was never really good, but it always felt like there was a ceiling with Jared Goff that you're going to get.
Yeah.
I'll say this: his championship hopes seemed more after he lost in the Super Bowl with the Rams. It seemed like a pipe dream. With the Lions, it feels a little different.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't explain it. It feels a little different. It feels like the team is on a like a they're destined to break through this year, And I don't know. I feel a little bit different of watching Jared Goff, just seeing that offense is going down the field over and over and over and over again, not just against the Packers, but this has been week in and week out, putting up points like it's Madden. They're putting up numbers how I usually do against Daniel and Madden. That's what it looked like. Park, I want to get what your thoughts are though on Ben Johnson. Are you buying into the hype, the notion that Ben Johnson could be the next great offensive mind and that he potentially, be the most sought after coach this offseason?
I think he'll be highly sought after, and I think he's going to be one of the top guys on the market that people are trying to bring into their building. But I do worry about him long term as a head coach because I just don't know what like the lifespan of some of these guys that are more just the X and O coach that can scheme stuff up really well, can get an offense moving well, or can get a defense locked in. I think there's just so much more that goes into you have to bring the culture with you. You have to instill a mindset because that's really what has been the main driver of Detroit's turnaround.
Yes.
It hasn't. I mean, there's been fun factors of it, like the explosive offense, like the fun defensive plays we've been able to see, the players they've been able to bring in, players they already had. But it was the culture shift that really got them to where they are now. And I know, especially when it's head coach led, and not just one side of the ball versus the other, that can trickle down into some of those assistant coaches, whether it's the coordinators or even the position coaches. But I just don't know if Ben Johnson's going to bring that with him as much as even just an Aaron Glenn would. I think Ben Johnson's more of just a scheme guy. I think he'd be a great offensive coordinator, like a long-term offensive coordinator. But it's the NFL, so if you get your shot, you got to take it. I just I'm going to be interested to see how it goes for Ben Johnson wherever he ends up landing.
And I think that's where it kind of depends also. A lot of it is your situation. It's similar to, how a quarterback heads into the NFL. And it's something very clear at this point. You can be as talented of a quarterback, but it really matters about your situation. And I think that I've kind of pinpointed, for me at least, I'm looking at and saying, hey, he needs to go to a team that has that personnel on offense. Because if you can build that type of offense, and you can build that consistency, and you can build that confidence in your entire team in general, I feel like you're on a good pathway to success. But if he goes to a team, without good personnel, if he goes to a team where they don't add to the offense, this offseason, how's the rest of the team going to be looking if your offense starts sputtering at the beginning of the season? So I think that it really depends on what team he goes to. But I think that he was very smart, and this is why I will applaud him. This past year, he didn't rush it. And I think it was very smart. And obviously, you have to capitalize when you have your opportunity to be a head coach. But at the same time, if you've got a good situation like he had in Detroit, I think that it was a smart move. And obviously hindsight's 2020, but it was a smart move to stay in Detroit for another season with the personnel that you had, with the consistency and the confidence that you had in your staff. Because now, just because you were a sought after head coach last year, you still are the same thing this year. So he definitely is the cream of the crop when it comes to, it seems like, these new teams, these teams that really have a young quarterback, mainly, like the Chicago Bears or even like the New York Giants. But I'd be curious to see what teams really go out and interview him for this year's cycle.
I think it hurts the fact that he's being Adam Schefter did a report and several other people reported that he's going to be very, very, very picky with who he sits down with, what teams he interviews with. Because this is a guy, let's be honest with you, he hasn't made in Detroit right now, right? If they can keep putting up the offensive points that they're putting up and be able to, you know, sustain this over a long period of time, I think that this could be a situation in which Ben Johnson stays in for quite a while. It's almost reminiscent to Josh McDaniels with the Patriots. Remember how many years he didn't want to leave New England? I mean, that was after he failed in Denver, but he stayed. He even duped a team that had him on a plane and all this kind of stuff like that, and was like, "Yeah, nah, I changed my mind. I'm going back to New England." I mean, this could be Josh McDaniels reincarnated. That's what this situation could be. It could be that all over again. Which brings me to an interesting crossroads, because usually when coordinators do stuff like that, when they have all these demands before they even sit down with a team, they're usually really not that good. They're usually lacking something from a head coaching standpoint. Josh McDaniels had all these things put into practice before he took the job. We already knew he was a good offensive play caller, but before he sat down with a team or even agreed to a deal with a team, he had to have it pretty much made. And I wonder if a guy like Ben Johnson is in a very similar spot, because he clearly thinks that, hey, I got the offensive chops, I have all the power to make a call, to ask for a certain amount of money. I think that there's going to be some team out there that's going to be willing to throw that at him. Will it be a team like the Chicago Bears, right? Does he see the allure in working with a guy like Caleb Williams? I have no idea, man. But I do believe that this situation is very reminiscent to a Josh McDaniels thing. And I would just caution people that are all clamoring from them. Usually when guys have all these demands and stuff like that, it's usually because they're lacking something from a leadership standpoint as a head coach.